Hi, this is Suraj here, Deputy Manager, Transport Systems and Electric Mobility at ITDP India. So we are here for the Urbanlogue series in which we connect with national and global experts and further the discourse on sustainable mobility. So today we have the privilege to talk to Professor Karthick Athmanathan from IITMadras, PSA Fellow and Professor of Practice, to delve into the current landscape and future strategies for accelerating zero-emission transportation in India. So, what is the current state of electric vehicle adoption in India right now?
I think we probably did about 5,000 electric LCVs this year, but India buys 600,000 LCVs every year. So it's even less than 0.5%. If you look at large trucks, India buys about 400,000 trucks per year. And we sold 200 or something last year or this year. So really not something serious in terms of current levels of penetration. But if you look at potential for penetration, the large trucks along with the buses, they seem to be the second most attractive, right? The first one is, of course, we have even evidence for it. It's your three-wheeler goods. So three-wheeler goods is a done deal. Today, you can just blindly go ahead and buy a three-wheeler knowing that you will not make a loss in electric three-wheeler. If you're not buying it, there must be some other reason, charging or whatever. But most people, it makes sense to buy a three-wheeler electric goods. Similar kind of thing is approaching for trucks. So if a truck, as of today, if a large truck owner, if he uses, say, about 27, 30 lakhs worth of diesel every year. So per truck, per year, if you are spending 27 to 30 lakhs per year, then you already have a business case without subsidy. You can just go ahead and buy an electric truck. If you're not buying it, you're not buying it for some other reason, not for money. There are other criteria, we'll go into that. But the point is, only 20% of the trucks in India burn that much diesel per year. The rest of them burn less. So it's not yet ready for them to start adopting. So it's not about people wanting or not wanting. Commercial vehicles, the vehicle is being bought for the sole purpose of making money. There is no other agenda there. I buy the asset to make profits so that I can make a business work. In the process, I move goods. So we have to see it as a business investment. And right now, by itself, without some assistance on different fronts, it doesn't make sense. So the penetration levels are fairly low. If you look at the biggest challenges for these people, as of today and as you ramp up, so there are two different phases. What is the challenge for him today? The upfront cost is a very indirect way of saying it. His actual problem is getting debt, making a profit, and taking the risk. These are the problems. So by giving an upfront subsidy, you resolve all these problems. But in case you don't give it, but you say, no, I'll give you toll waiver on the roads, you might have solved his cost problem, but you have not solved his debt problem, nor have you solved his risk, right? So for solving those, you will still need an upfront support where the risk is removed for him and his debt is still something which he can go for. So high upfront cost is a very naive way of articulating the problem. We need to get down to solutions which will address his specific issues and challenges. So this is one of the problems. What happens to my truck after I use it for, say, 5-7 years? Resale risk, once again, another risk at that time. Today, there's nobody who will buy an electric truck secondhand. There's zero evidence. So that ecosystem has to be built. And once again, you need fiscal product for that. So today, in my opinion, rather than say charging infra is the challenge, upfront cost is the challenge, which are the favorite words for everybody, all of us. I would say fiscal products are the challenge. And we need to offer that where there's a viability gap finance, there is a risk loss cover, there is debt, there is insurance, and there is margin money in the form of subsidy or whatever. That's also to be treated as margin money. Otherwise, he can't find so much. Today, probably with 5 lakhs, he can buy a 40 lakh diesel truck. Remember, he still has only 5 lakhs to give. He's not suddenly become a very rich man. So for the 5 lakhs, is he going to be able to buy a 1 crore truck? Will a financial institution give him 95% debt? All this needs to be sorted out. So predominant challenge is on the finance side, money. Viability gap finance is required. Debt is required. Risk loss is required. So these are the ones that are required today. But as you ramp up and go forward, a few more issues start adding. And one of them is, I won't put it very, once again, naively as charging infrastructure. I'll say, does our DISCOM have the ability to provide correct quality and quantity of power on the highways and rural areas or just off the highways? There are 4 different state government electricity boards. Am I going to really believe and trust these guys and run my business? Today, it doesn't look good enough.
True.
So we have to bring in models which is going to help these DISCOMs and electricity boards to also up their act and become reliable and trustworthy partners who are able to do business and contribute to business. But don't expect them to make a loss. They should be allowed to make a profit. Only then their commitments will be higher. So your ramping up phase, these such points will get added. Charging infrastructure is a naive way of putting it, but essentially will the DISCOMs deliver? Because I have fellows who are willing to invest. I have fellows who can manufacture chargers. So you have the chargers and all that ready. It is a DISCOM who's very scary today. Not so bad inside the cities, but long distance, it's a problem.
For the sector to take up, it's the financing part and the power requirement that is the crucial thing that you're saying.
I see those. Of course, a lot of people, you talk to the vehicle sellers, they'll say, where are the buyers? Shippers are saying, no, we are ready to adopt. And then when you go and sit with him, he's going to adopt if it's the same cost as diesel. So what is required? Once again, the finance solution.
Sure.
He's not budging. He's not saying, no, I'll pay 30% more per ton per kilometer. You bring me electric trucks. The shipper is unable to say it. He can't do it. Operator, everybody is willing to adopt. We are willing to do pilots, etc. But will you make a loss? No, he can't. So you need the financial product, right? You go to the OEM. He keeps saying, where are the buyers? There are no buyers. I've already made and kept 3 models ready. I'm not going to make 20 models till I see some evidence of the market. So these are all going to happen if this fundamental money thing is addressed.
Okay. So going on to the next question, as India's trucking market is expected to grow fourfold by 2050, and freight vehicles contribute to around 34% of the total road transport emissions, what are the primary challenges that you feel it is there in electrifying the freight sector? And particularly looking into the medium and heavy commercial vehicles. And what do you think are the policies that the governments could implement to curtail emissions from the sector?
See, fortunate for us, CoEZET here in IITMadras has worked with Government of India, and there is a formal report published by the Government of India itself with due consultations from people from experts from different disciplines. So that discussion has had government officials, it has had OEM engineers, OEM business managers, it has had DISCOM people, it has had financial multilateral agencies, and it's had a couple of academicians. Government has already published what's called the Bharat zero-emission trucking policy. Of course, this is in the context of 12 tons to 55 tons. So there are about, I think, 30 or 34 policy actions which are listed there. So it's all there. Out of which about 7 or 10 are going to be high impact policy initiatives. All of them are going to help. Ideal world, all 34 of them get implemented within 3 months. That's how the world should be, right? Well, it doesn't happen that way. There are different interests that we have to balance. So right now, CoEZET, along with the government and a lot of the NGO partners, these policies have been taken up, policy recommendations. It's called a policy advisory. So this has been taken up for dissemination with government and industry. And in parallel, it's been taken up for impact assessment.
Okay.
So this particular policy measure, how much will it cost the government, right? Or does it cost at all? How much will it benefit the buyer of the truck or the shipper? How much will energy will it save? How much fuel will it save? So the impact assessment has started. The discussions have started under Niti Ayog's eFast platform. So this has started seeing the next stage of activity, right? As I say, dream situation is you just come and say that all this should be done, right? But the government needs a mechanism for all this to be done. That's why it's the government. They have governance requirements. So you help the process, and that's what is currently happening. CoEZET is doing a lot of support for that. But the Niti Ayog team and the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, these people are all already engaging. Nice part is some of the ministries have actually, without waiting for all this, they have started taking their own initiatives, which is a good thing. So one example is the heavy industries PME drive. Extremely small amount for trucks, but it's a start. Let's now show that, listen, this is a small amount and I ate up your subsidy in 3 months. Let's show that there is a demand. Let's show that there's a willingness. The government has taken the first step for subsidy. Now you need to reciprocate by demonstrating the will to take it. Of course, they still have some scheme issues. They have to finalize the phased manufacturing program and other details. But essentially, once it is offered, it should be absorbed immediately. The other one is we hear that the Ministry of Road Transport is working with NHAI and others to offer toll waivers for all zero-emission vehicles. Not just trucks, but buses, two-wheelers, three-wheelers, cars, everybody. I don't know how much toll waiver will be given, and we don't know for how long it will be given, right? Because there are constraints. The government has only so much money, so they have to plan the money properly. But the fact is, there is a willingness, and they have started moving. They have not been waiting for anybody to ask.
Yeah.
Similarly, Ministry of Power, they have published an excellent set of guidelines. I think they've done a thorough job. They've thought it through. And unfortunately, these are guidelines. They say that it has to be enforced, thou shall, etc. But they don't mention what will happen if the state government does not.
Sure.
Right? Under a federal setup, that is difficult. Yeah. Carrots are better than sticks. So there is no incentive for the state government to do all this. So the state government has to do it on its own initiative, which is not common across all the states. So, but superb set of guidelines from Ministry of Power. It has addressed, I think, almost all concerns on charging infrastructure. I think, I'm not 100% sure. So, now one important policy which so far has been difficult for India to digest, both from government side and from industry side, is mandate for electric vehicles. India has conventionally stayed away from mandates for electric vehicles, whether it's two-wheelers, three-wheelers, etc. In a few cases, on the demand side, there are a few indications, but no concrete large mandate. But remember, Indian market, the three people who constitute about 92% of sales have already committed that they'll be net zero by 2050.
Yeah.
Ashok Leyland, Tata Motors, Bharat Benz. I think Leyland has said net zero by 2048. Tata Motors has said 2045. And Bharat Benz, as part of Daimler's global target, 2050. Net zero. Now, net zero is very expensive for these people without zero emission trucks. So that's a good option. So they're more or less saying by 2050, we'll be selling zero emission vehicles only, right? Not clearly so. They might choose to argue against, but the direction is there. If that is the case, it should not be very difficult for the government, some neutral bodies, and for the OEMs to sit down and actually come up with a comprehensive mandate which recognizes the stage target, but also recognizes conditionalities. That so many kilowatt of charging infra will be in place. Stuff like that. It has to be a conditional mandate. Otherwise, it is very unfair to just push one side alone. But it is workable. It is possible. And the government is in a position to sit. Of course, CoEZET has got the competence to provide the entire backup for this entire activity. But we need to sit with the authorities, with the companies, and think it's good that the companies have already declared an end date, right? So the trick is in identifying the stages which are fair to everyone, and by 2050 we are all ready. Right? Calls for a long-term thing. I think the best option is to take it into the automotive mission plan. Automotive mission plan is a Government of India document which goes up to 2047. It will evolve.
Mm-hmm.
So in that, they can bring in for trucks. They can say that, listen, we don't know about cars, etc. But for trucks, in the AMP, we are now drawing up this joint roadmap between the government and the automotive sector, the OEMs. There's an opportunity, but there needs to be very mature, high-quality debates for these things. That's the need. So I hope it happens. So mandate is a very important driver, because now the OEM is clear about demand. Based on that, the OEM will start driving the supply chain. They'll start driving the technology. They'll start driving the ecosystem, and they will start driving the market. Right? They know how to do this, but they need some sense of finality and some sense of clarity on where the government is headed. So this mandate will help. Now, while doing this, you constantly talk about LNG and CNG and hydrogen and ethanol, etc. It becomes a confusing signal. So all those are also important, but they're part of the journey. The main journey is more or less electric and, if at all, hydrogen. So you need to articulate this, and you need to make it clear that, listen, most of our estimates, even in CoEZET and quite a few other experts, it looks like LNG will be there and then slowly it will go off. Because electric will beat LNG in terms of cost, right? Same thing with CNG, same thing with ethanol. None of them make too much sense. And anyway, they can't supply ethanol to such volumes. So mandate, which is carefully planned and coordinated with the OEM community, is a very powerful tool. But we have to go about it that way. We have to take a long-term vision and a consultative approach.
Thanks for highlighting the government policies and initiatives that you think will drive this mission forward. So, sir, what are the technical advancements and the infrastructure that needs to be in place so that this sector can take up the pace that you envision for?
So I'll start with a demand curve. It makes much better sense. The demand curve is led by cost trends, right? So based on cost trends, the demand curve, I would say, we have drawn up two estimates in CoEZET. One is where there is no policy intervention. Even then, India electrifies by 2057. You can't help it, right? Because it's cheaper and I save foreign exchange. And I have to price electricity higher because I'm losing the petroleum tax revenue. But so there are two demand curves that CoEZET has come up with. Penetration curve, we'll call it, where it is an extremely steep hockey stick. the first 15 to 20 years, penetration is hardly about 10%, 15%, 20%. And then last 10 years, it just zooms up because it's now driven by money, right? So the trick as a policymaker and a technology provider should be to reduce the severity of that climb, which means the initial part has to be pushed up. That comes through policy measures and technology measures. I believe that there is enough technology available for that part of the curve. There's no need to keep wondering if we are ready. We have access to the tech and we know how to go about it. If not, within 3 months or 6 months, whether it's an OEM or the supplier, they will learn it. So it's not rocket science anymore. So the technology challenges are limited. Infrastructure challenges are immense, right? So I think the best way, the charging infrastructure way forward is the US freight electrification strategy. That is the only common sense way of doing it for trucks. So it talks about projects in various places across the country, projects. Then those projects become hubs with small spokes. And then the spokes start extending towards each other, and then they become corridors between the hubs. So fairly well thought out. Already people like NEO have started long distance buses with their own corridors, right? So I give NEO another a few thousand crores, and you give him another 5 years, the guy will have a network of buses without relying on anything. So it's, once again, money. So it's the investments, it's the viability gap, it's the debt. That's what is required. So for the infrastructure, I think the freight electrification plan from the US, we can adopt it. There will be a few modifications for the Indian context on infrastructure. On technology, we are quite okay. Even if we have to buy from outside, it will not last beyond 5-6 years. Look at the same kind of crying we were doing, saying we are importing everything for engines and automotive long ago, right? No one talks about it now.
True.
Because everything is done here. These things are driven by market and numbers anyway, economics. So it's good to have all this technology initiative, but honestly, I don't see technology as an issue. I see money as the issue and the credibility of the discoms and the electricity boards. I think these two are the biggest issues as of today that I can see.
Okay, so what is your vision for the commercial electric vehicle landscape for the next 5 to 10 years?
It will be very, very discouraging levels of penetration. So what you have to look at is the larger picture. In fact, probably when it reaches 25 or 40%, people like me won't even be alive, right? But the point is, the journey starts today. We need initiative takers. And in case something nice happens on battery price, and there's one new paradigm which completely changes the economics, right? Then it could be something. I'm just guessing or dreaming. So let's say the lithium-ion battery literally made the lead-acid battery look like an idiot, right? For various things, but it wasn't able to replace even today. It's not been able to replace it for the 12-volt, 24-volt systems because it's not able to match it on cost. And the recycling for lead acid is extremely mature. Here, you're still talking about recycling. You're not doing it. I have a feeling that there will be not just solid state, etc., but there will be a new battery. I'm dreaming it will be a multivalent ion, which will completely kill the current lithium-ion paradigm for energy and power densities. And once your energy density goes to that level, your costs automatically drop. Most of the energy density goes up, your cost goes down. That's because you're making the same amount of material and labor cost, but you've now packed more energy into it, right? So I'm hoping all this. There are some people like me who are dreaming about aluminum ion with, let's say, a new kind of anode and probably a new kind of separator, which is going to allow such a large ion to still succeed, right? When that happens, if it happens, then you have no use for the lithium ion in the electric vehicle. You'd rather take that because it's taking less space, charges faster, and at the same time costs less. Why would I touch, right? Something like that, unless it happens for the next 15 years, if people are looking only at number of trucks, electric trucks, as a metric, I believe a lot of us will be disappointed because it is a false expectation. It's not a right expectation. What is the right expectation is, are we headed in the right direction with the correct policies, with the correct technologies, which is already there, and with the correct ecosystem. And this is not just infrastructure for charging, it is for supply chain, aftermarket support, life cycle management and recycling, ecosystem for interoperability. These things are all important, right? So I think your horizon of 10 years, probably 7% penetration in trucks. You should feel happy. And if it's 10%, you should buy yourself a good bottle of wine. Yes.
So, what are the crucial things that the fleet operators or policymakers should focus on to expedite the EV adoption right now?
Yeah. So, as I said, you've got to solve the finance problem first.
Yeah.
Right. So, the finance, to repeat myself, viability gap finance is basically reducing his total cost of ownership. Then you've got to reduce his risks and his margin money somehow. That comes as a subsidy. VGF need not come as a subsidy. It can come as toll waiver as well. It can come as interest subvention. It can come as subsidized EV tariffs. So that resolves the cost problem, but it still doesn't resolve his risk and margin money problem. Remember, the debt will start coming if the profitability is there. So if you look at going to Sundaram Finance or Shriram or State Bank, and you tell him that same effort, same paperwork, but earlier I used to borrow 40 lakhs per truck and now I'm going to borrow on 120 lakhs per truck. He's happy. His book size has increased. And he knows you're a good business, you're a good party, and he's been having a 20-year relationship with you. So he's going to help you do it if you're profitable. So the key part, once again, is profitable. So total cost, you do it with viability gap finance. Risk product, you need a risk class product. Margin money or equity, you need to cover it with the subsidy. Once again, it contributes to some risk mitigation. You need to bring in debt. I don't think you need to be fussy about 2 or 3% reduction. If it matches diesel rates, it should be fine. And you need to bring sensible insurance products. So today, I'm seeing insurance being priced differently based on the customer profile. So I have seen electric bus being insured at 1/3 the premium which another person is paying. It's the same product. It's in a few cases, it's the same model and same manufacturer of the bus. But there is a difference. We tried to trace why this was happening. And then we realized that it is the lack of awareness of the insurance officer, right? So where he has a strong customer, the insurance officer is keen on his business. So he sits down and he understands everything. He doesn't want to lose that strong account.
Yeah.
So he goes through that effort. But when some new Johnny comes, right, they say, no, we don't know about all this, sir. This is our premium. Otherwise, you go to somebody else. All the insurance guys are saying the same thing. So that guy ends up paying a ridiculous price. But mind you, same product. this is the scale of the insurance rate difference, right? So it's fairly significant. Now, why is this happening? Because the insurance sector, I see them as part of the finance sector, they have not spent their time in understanding this market and actually developing products. They're just responding to an inquiry from a customer.
Yeah.
So I think this part is going to be the most important part, the money part, right? And maybe you can give a good financial incentive to the discom so that they give good quality power. Then you can monetize everything and boil it down to money, and just go sit in Ministry of Finance and no other ministry becomes one single problem. Finally, I don't think it's going to cost us more than maybe 80,000 crores as cost to the country. It's worth it.
Continuing to that, how do you see government playing as a facilitator in all these, like when it comes to financing and also the infrastructure part?
I think for heavy trucks, now you have it in writing. So the Bharat zero-emission truck policy advisory.
Yeah,
that's a powerful document.
cool.
It covers what all areas need to be looked at. So, and it also says which topics are with which ministries. So, and it also talks about which is a high impact policy, which is a medium impact policy. It also talks about which is a policy which is difficult to implement, which is a policy which is easy to implement. Of course, there are some leaders like Mr. Gadkari and his team who have made a seemingly difficult policy like toll waiver just through personal initiative and charisma. They have been able to make it into an easy job, right? Instead of constantly discussing the problem and discussing the issues, they have gone ahead with solutions and they're willing to experiment, try and fail. Now, government officers trying and failing, as a country, we are not used to it. They get pulled up. There is some media fellow will write some weird stuff saying there was some agenda there. Poor guy probably took an initiative knowing that there was a possibility to fail, but he thought he'll take the risk. He took the risk and he succeeded in 4, 1 failed, but he'll get pulled up for that one item. So most officers are worried about these things.
Yeah.
But that policy advisory document is a good one to go with. It doesn't seem to have missed any point from what I'm hearing so far. Some of it need not be done in a hurry. Some can be done slowly, 2 years, 3 years. But it's a journey, and each ministry has to take it up and do that journey. Niti Aayog and PSA office have offered coordinating and the centralized nodal thing for the policy advisory. And we have Heavy Industries Ministry declared as the nodal ministry for e-mobility in the country.
Oh, okay.
So you have one line ministry like MHI, which is a huge, powerful ministry, which has been empowered. And you've got these 2 think tanks who are in a position to actually do all the processing and consulting and analysis work for MHI, so that MHI can go ahead and execute. So it's in a good position, but who's going to bell the cat? We'll find out. If anybody is going to bell the cat, we'll have to find out.
Thank you, sir, for giving all your insights.
Pleasure. All the best.